I am very, very pleased to be talking to the wonderful Camille Trail, who is an artist from Queensland who released an amazing album, River of Sins, in 2021. Camille, hello. Lovely to see you.
Hello. Lovely to see you face to face.
Yes, quite. Now, congratulations on your Golden Guitar Award. Oh, sorry, award nomination, I should say. What I was going to say is it must be quite hard waiting another 3 months for the awards themselves.
Yeah, they're definitely keeping us on our toes. But I'm so excited, but I'm kind of just stoked with the nomination. Winning it, sure, that's a bonus, but I'm happy with the nom.
Yeah, because I imagine it would have been a pretty crowded field. So it must be quite gratifying, actually, and wonderful with your first album to have that acknowledgement.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that to come so soon. I sat down, I was watching the nominations being revealed, and I was like, oh yeah, this might be like a thing that happens in like 2 or 3 years. And then they read out my name and I like fell off my chair and started crying for like 2 hours.
Well, I think that's an appropriate response. It's very exciting. Now, for those who don't know about the New Talent of the Year category, you enter one song. It's not actually for an album. So you entered the song I Know I'm Hard to Love from the album River of Sins. Mm-hmm. Was it hard to choose which song to enter for that category?
It was very hard because you kind of think like, do you pick your song that charted well? And some songs that did well, they kind of weren't in the timeline that I could enter those songs in as well. And I Know I'm Hard to Love, it's never been, I don't know, like I feel like it's kind of like a hidden gem song, like probably not many people know about it. So everyone kind of knows my popular song. So we figured entering that one, it's kind of another side, I suppose. And it's very like one of my favorite songs because it's very songwritery. So I think that's why we went with that one.
What do you mean by very songwritery? I'm interested.
Yeah, I guess that song, when I wrote it, I was thinking a lot about like, just like with the lyrics being like very like using lots of metaphors. And I was thinking a lot more of like the theory side of songwriting when I wrote it as well. Whereas the other ones are probably more like, I want to put in a catchy hook here so people can sing along to it. Whereas this one was more kind of lyrics driven where I'm like, I want them to feel like this. And it was a lot more thought went into that one.
So for people who don't know this either, you do have, when you say theory driven, you do have qualifications in music. So you do know all that theory that you can apply.
Yeah. I did a Bachelor of Music specializing in songwriting. So it was really cool because you kind of just actually learn. Every songwriter does them. And it's just, you do it on your instinct, but you just don't really know what it's called or what it does. So I guess going to uni, it kind of taught me that's called this and that's what it does. So it's more of like a thing now. I can be like, I know what to do to make someone feel like this.
So subtle emotional manipulation through songwriting, I guess, which is part of it, you know, like it is that you only have a few minutes with every song to help the listener to feel something. And so you do need to bring in all those little things that are not known to the listener. Because if it was too obvious, if you were doing something like that and it was too obvious to the listener, it would sound clunky, the song wouldn't flow. But yeah, you, in a sense, are not manufacturing the experience for the listener, but you certainly want to create a world in that song. And so you do need a lot of things to work with.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way of putting it, almost manufacturing it, because you kind of, there's so many techniques where it's like, well, I do this, they're going to feel this. So it's like you write a sad song and then you just never resolve the chord and you just never make them happy.
I love that. That's great. Well, I've got to say, this is one of my favorite songs of yours. I Know I'm Hard to Love. The first time I heard it, I just thought, wow, like it was quite different to everything else on the album, quite different to the singles you released, which are also on the album. But I remember thinking how I knew you were a diverse artist already, but when that came out, I just thought that's really an extraordinary piece of work.
Thank you.
And it's also really, it feels, you don't feel emotionally raw so much as, because that sounds like your voice is a bit rough or whatever, and your voice is so perfect on this song, but it's more that you obviously had to draw from a lot of emotion to sing it, take after take, probably. So what's it like recording a song that is that emotionally demanding, I guess, on a singer?
It's almost quite exhausting because you kind of put everything into it. And then I know it wasn't this song, but Mary, because that's quite a sad song. And sometimes I have trouble singing that one. And when you have to do so many takes when it's a song that is harder to sing because it means a lot, we actually had to stop because my voice, like I just started crying and we couldn't record because my voice was wobbly. So we kind of had to really rely on the first couple of takes to get good vocal shots, because otherwise it just got far too emotional and you're just delving more and more and you're getting darker in your mind because you're singing it over and over. But yeah.
Yeah, Mary's another one. That's the song when I was listening to it first, I thought it sounds like you've come from centuries ago, if that makes sense. Like it sounded almost like a medieval song because it had this sense of ancient connection, ancient rites and rituals. So I can totally understand how that would have had the same impact on you.
Oh, that's so cool. I love hearing that because I love gospel music. So I guess I always love that older, like yeah, that's really cool.
But when you're performing songs like that live, does the live environment mean you can put a bit of distance between you and the song so that it doesn't become too taxing? I guess you're only performing it once live as well, but that audience, that's a different environment. You can kind of think, okay, I'm the performer now. I'm just going to cut off a little bit of myself so I can perform this song.
Yeah, well, Mary, when I perform it, I do it a cappella as well. So I just play the first note and then I go off and sing it. And it's very hard to sing live as well, just because it's just like dead silent. Everyone's looking at you. You can't really think of anything else because it's just everyone's looking at you and it's just those words. And then I'm singing it. I'm like, don't cry, Camille.
Yeah, that's hard. I imagine also tiring. Yes, at the end of a show, to think, oh, I've put the audience through the emotions and I've gone through them too.
Yeah, I always joke about that at my shows. I'm always like, I feel so sorry for the audiences who come and watch me play, because songwriting is like my therapy. So I write a song and I feel better, but then I play those songs to people and I'm just unloading all of my baggage on the audience.
I think we understand that that's the deal, though. You know, you don't go to a gig just to feel nothing.
Yeah, you might not feel like sunshine and rainbows when you leave my gig, but
but there will have been some entertainment, and they can be different things. To sunshine, that can be a different thing to sunshine and rainbows. Now, you worked with Shane Nicholson on this album as he was your producer. He also sang with you on the track 6 O'Clock. It must have been very handy to have a producer who could sing. He was right there, ready to go.
Yeah, it was really cool too, because 6 O'Clock was never meant to be a duet. None of the songs were going to be duets. And when we were in the recording studio, Shane was like, oh, hey, usually it's a good idea to bring someone in as a duet, just so you can kind of, you're a new artist, debut album, have someone else's name to kind of bring attention. And he was like, maybe we can get this person and this person. And I was like, no, I want you to sing on it. And he was like, well, you've already got my name because I'm producing it. It'd be helpful if you got someone else. And I was like, I grew up listening to you, Shane. 8-year-old Camille is screaming right now. You're singing it. Thank you. So we
sorry, go on.
Sorry, we went through all the songs and we're like, right, we'll see if any of these can work as a duet. And we got to 6 O'Clock and I can't imagine it now not as a duet. It was just so perfect because there was about 2 people talking to each other saying, well, it's not going to work. We tried our best, but let's just let it be. So it was so perfect as a duet. It's so weird that we didn't think of that in the first place.
Well, probably just developed in its own time. And the other duet is with Brad Butcher in Holding Pattern. And Brad's another fantastic Queensland artist. So that was a good pairing, at least from my point of view as a listener. But also Shane Nicholson wrote that song. So I was wondering if the stakes felt a bit higher when your producer was standing there, you know, watching you perform a song that he wrote. Yeah,
definitely. And well, the hardest thing too was when we recorded that song, it was in the middle of COVID and we couldn't get to the studio with Shane. So we had to record our vocals in our own homes. And I'm not the most technically advanced person. So both Brad and I recorded our vocals in cupboards. And I kept listening to my vocals and being like, I'm sending this to Shane. It's his song. And he was kind of like, oh, just make it your own. But I was like, I can't ruin the song. Like it's got to be good. And I was just so nervous to send my vocals to Shane just because I wanted to do justice to the song.
It's so wild to me to hear that you and Brad recorded it separately in cupboards, that sort of thing, because the song sounds so cohesive. I suppose that is the advantage of new technology. But I guess also when you're recording like that, do you have to put yourself, or do you have to spend time putting yourself in the mindset of the storyteller in the song so that it doesn't just sound like you're rattling out a tune and you're covered, if that makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. And we kind of do, I know when I did it, I kind of warmed up and I did maybe like 4 or 5 takes of the song before I even hit record, just because I wanted to get in that headspace. And I always had my eyes closed the entire time that I was recording, because I'd open it and be like, oh, I haven't worn that dress in a while.
That's called what Brad was thinking while he was recording in the cupboard. So those are the 2 duets. The rest of the songs you sing on your own, and it's your album, so you absolutely should. They all feel like stories. Like I said, the world in a song, but also these are individual stories, and the album therefore feels like a collection of short stories. So I'm wondering, when you start writing a song, whether you think of it as a complete story, or if you first think of an idea or a scene or an emotion and go from that point.
Yeah, most of the time it always starts off as an idea, or I'll just have a random lyric can just pop to my head and I'll quickly write it down. So a lot of the times it kind of starts as just an idea or a concept. And a lot of the times it just goes from there, and I actually discover more about what the song is about as I'm writing it. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that I was feeling this, or those kind of things. So it's almost always like a self-discovery.
Yeah. That's, well, as you said, you say the songs are therapy, but I think, well, I suppose it's the same thing. Self-discovery also works as an element. There are also a variety of moods on the album. Did you consciously set out to have a palette of emotions or experiences, or just when you were, I guess it's another way of asking, were there more songs that you put on the album? And therefore, did you edit your song collection to achieve something in particular?
Yeah, there were definitely a lot more songs that I definitely plucked those songs from another kind of group of bigger songs that I had written. They were kind of just the highlight songs that I liked the most, and what felt, I guess, what they kind of just jumped out at me, and they were the songs that felt special to me. All the other songs were kind of just songs I'd written, and I would forget about them in 3 weeks' time, be like, oh yeah, that song. But every one of those songs I never forgot about. And at the time I was listening to a lot of the darker kind of Americana gospel music. So I really wanted the sound to be more of that kind of rootsy, earthy, kind of raw music. So I kind of picked all those songs, keeping in mind that they couldn't all be dark. So I had like the little I Don't Like You and the little history added in there as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's fine to explore the darkness, particularly because you do have some ups and downs on this, as in there's light, there's shade, there's a whole range of things. So I think for listeners, it does take them on a journey. I was never that conscious of thinking I'm listening to Camille's therapy. I was more thinking, in fact, I was never conscious of that. I was more thinking this is a great little collection of different stories. And speaking of songwriting, I saw on Instagram around the time Tamworth was meant to be on that you said, well, instead of being Tamworth, because it's been postponed, I'm writing some new songs. So have you been able to road test those songs in a set yet? Are you planning to? Because my next question is going to be about you going out on the road. Or maybe I'll just ask you now. You're going out on the road with Shane Nicholson as his support act. So will you be road testing your new songs on that tour?
I think at the start, I'm just going to keep with playing the songs from the album. And a lot of the songs, I almost feel I'm horrible with putting too much pressure on myself. I'm really shocking with that. And I know I do it, but I just can't help not do it. But it's weird. The first album, you kind of put it out there, and first impressions are really important. But I almost feel a little bit of pressure with the second album to be like, all right, it's got to be good or better than the first, to say like, hey, like it wasn't a fluke, like I'm still here. So it's almost like this weird thing where I'm very in my head and I'll write a song and it's good, but I'm like, it's not good enough. So I guess that's probably just something I'm working through at the moment. But I think I definitely will road test them. That's really the only way you can find out if they're good or not.
Yeah. The songs that went on to River of Sins, have you played quite a few gigs with those before you recorded?
I did, yeah. And a lot of the songs, I did sets where only 2 or 3 of the songs from Rivers of the blah, blah. I cannot talk. Let me try that again. Wow. I've done gigs where out of the entire set list, only 3 of the songs were from my album. And you always noticed such more of a reaction to those songs. Everyone else was like, all the other songs, it was like clap, yeah, cool. But those songs just felt like they had a different response. So I'm kind of hoping when I play these new songs that they get the same response.
I'm sure they will, because I think, yeah, you have that. Well, I don't want to say a gift of authenticity, because I think as an artist, and particularly as a songwriter who has to stand on stage and deliver something, you can want to be authentic, but it's almost like a muscle you have to work and keep using it. Otherwise, it's too easy to retreat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes being authentic means you're vulnerable, and sometimes that can be a scary thing, because you're kind of just letting everyone in on like your heartbreaks and what's going on in your mind. And then if they don't like it, well, it's like almost a piece of you that they don't like. So it can be very terrifying, but you almost have to keep reminding yourself that that's why you do music, so people can relate to it. So you've got to be vulnerable, even if it is a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, it is terrifying, and it does take courage, I think, as I said, particularly standing on stage, because it's different to just writing the song for someone else to perform. As in, you're a professional songwriter, you're never going to see the result of those songs. You have to actually stand and deliver, and keep making the decision to do so. And I'm sure there are people who come up to you and tell you wonderful things about your songs, but you're never going to know how many people love them. That's the other thing, is that it might be one person here or there, but that one person may represent 200 people.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's kind of almost just trust it and feel your way through it, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that's a good motto for life, Camille. So with Shane's tour, you actually had a few little gigs I shouldn't say little gigs. You had gigs in South Australia at the end of last year. You are a Queenslander. Was it weird leaving the stage?
It was so weird, especially to play shows. I was like, they're not going to get cancelled. Like, I can still go on a plane. And it was just so weird. And it's crazy to think that that was completely normal 2-3 years ago, but it was so nice. And I've always wanted to go to South Australia. I've always just wanted to do a holiday down there. And it was so nice to go there. And it's so beautiful, and the people are lovely.
I also saw, I think it was before you did that on Instagram, you were out and about in a van yourself, driving around to shows. So you're obviously quite intrepid. Like, you'll get in, I think it was a van, just take off, play a show, drive another 8 hours or whatever it is to the next show.
Yeah, well, that was when my original tour and parts of Shane's tour was supposed to start. No. So I kind of had this, I actually quit my job just before the tour, because what employee is going to let you have 3 months off and then come back? It's a bit of a stretch. So I quit my job, and then about 2 days after I quit my job, I heard that pretty much the entire tour had been cancelled. And I was like, well, I've quit my job, I may as well make the most of it. And my mum and dad have a van that's been converted. So I just took it on the road and just tried to find as many gigs as I could, just really make the most of it. But it was so much fun. I've never really done anything solo like that. So it was really fun.
Now, part of your work history includes running a cattle stud, a Brahman cattle stud. And I did read that you funded the recording of the album by selling a couple of bulls. So at what age did you become involved in stud breeding?
Well, my parents have a stud, and for my brothers and my 10th birthday, they got us our first stud cow. So pretty much from when I was 10, and then just been breeding the numbers up from then. But cattle have been an absolute savior for me, because obviously with cancelled gigs and stuff, the income hasn't been great. So the cows have saved my bum quite a few times. And I actually just bought about 30 little weaners that I'm going to sell for the next album.
Do you go to cattle sales for that, or do you have a trusted sales agent who handles that for you?
When we buy like the commercial, like the weaners, we just buy from a friend that we know.
Right.
But yeah, for all the stud kind of cattle, like the breeding cattle, we go to all the cattle sales and yeah.
It's been part of your life since childhood, obviously. However, you've now left the land and moved to Brisbane, I understand. So are you missing being on the land?
Yeah, for sure. It's very weird hearing cars beeping and not cows mooing. It's quite different. But it's also so nice not having to drive 8 to 10 hours to a gig all the time. And it's just so much easier in the city. There's so many more opportunities. There's open mic nights, heaps of different networking. But I definitely miss the almost like the laid back lifestyle on the land. It's very kind of hustle and bustle in the city.
Yeah, it's hard to find the balance, I guess. And I suppose for you as a writer as well, it'll be discovering whether it's as easy to write in an environment where there's a lot of hustle and bustle. Maybe you can just enclose yourself in a space, but it'll be interesting to discover.
Yeah, exactly. In the new place that we moved into, I have a little music room. So I always try and make it feel as nice as I can. And it's kind of got all the same stuff that I had in my previous music room. So it's got like the same tapestry and like the same candles and cushions and stuff. So I've tried to keep things that feel the same. So it doesn't feel like a completely different space.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's definitely helped a lot. I always light the same scented candle. So it always smells and feels like the same place.
So after this tour is over, because there are a few dates, you're going to a few different places. Do you have plans to do some shows of your own? Are you looking at setting up a regular gig in Brisbane?
Yeah, I'm definitely we're hoping to get some more gigs and hook onto some festivals. Would love to do some more shows of my own. Yeah, because the Brisbane show, the launch show got sold out, and I know quite a few people messaged me and saying that they wanted to get tickets, but they missed out. So that's definitely something that we might do, is do another Brisbane show. But yeah, that would be super cool.
Well, I'm sure you will be very much in demand, and I'm certainly looking forward to hearing those new songs whenever you get to record them. But I'll let you go now and hope to see you in Tamworth, maybe, depending on the schedule. And thank you for creating that wonderful album. It's been one of my favorites. I listen to it quite a lot. It's beautiful. Yeah, if anyone has not heard it yet, how dare they? And they should go right now and listen to it. Camille, really lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.